You who dwell in the quiet chambers of the mind, who seek the hidden roots of existence, are the deep thinkers I address. In my long journey into the psyche, I have found that your thoughts reach beyond the surface, touching the eternal currents of the unconscious. This book is my offering, a map drawn from my own explorations, to guide you through the labyrinth of your inner world toward the light of the self. The mind's inner gaze. Close your eyes for a moment, sensitive one, and notice how the darkness is not empty at all. It shimmers with half-remembered images, with colors that have no name, with whispers that seem older than your own life. This, I have found, is the first movement of the introverted type, the soul turning its gaze inward, not outward, to discover a world as vast as any mountain range, as deep as any sea. In that inward glance begins the greatest of journeys, the pilgrimage to the self. When I wrote Psychological Types in 1921, I described the introvert as one whose life force withdraws from the bright marketplace into a quiet, hidden temple. Yet this is no retreat born of fear, it is a deliberate act of reverence. The inner gaze honors what the outer eye cannot see, the fluid shapes of dream, the secret alphabet of symbol, the sudden intuition that erupts like lightning upon a still lake. It is there, in that shimmer, that you meet what I have called the numinosum, the holy, haunting presence that does not explain itself in plain speech, but moves the heart with awe. Consider the dream that startles you awake at dawn, its images fading even as you try to pin them to language. That dream is not merely a random firing of neurons, it is the psyche's oracle, speaking in mythic pictures because prose is too small for its message. Or recall the moment when a simple object, a crow's feather, an antique key, a child's forgotten toy, glows with inexplicable significance. In that glow, the ordinary reveals its hidden soul. The inner gaze notices, pauses, and listens where others hurry past. Yet this turn inward is not without peril. The outward, facing world, enamored with speed and surface, may call you aloof, impractical, even self-absorbed. Do not believe it. The wellspring of meaning is found below, not above. Water drawn from the depths refreshes the village more than water skimmed from a shallow pond. Your task is to become both well and water, bearer, to descend into psychic silence, fill your vessel with symbol and intuition, and return to share what you have gathered. How, then, do you honor the inner gaze? Begin with active imagination. Let a fragment of dream or a fleeting image unfold before your mind's eye. Enter its landscape as if stepping onto a stage. Speak to the figures that arise. Ask them why they have come. Record their answers without judgment. Over time, patterns will emerge, archetypal threads weaving a tapestry that belongs not just to you, but to the entire human story. Practice also the art of mindful noticing. In a crowded room, feel which faces draw your attention and why. On a solitary walk, observe which fragments of nature echo some unspoken truth inside you. Every outer event holds an inner resonance if you listen with both ears of the soul. Finally, cultivate reverent patience. The numinosum is shy. It appears when the ego grows quiet. Set aside moments of intentional stillness. A candle at dusk, a journal before sleep, a silent cup of tea at dawn. In such pauses, the unconscious extends its hand. Take it. Let it lead you across the threshold where waking thought ends and symbolic knowing begins. Honor this inward gaze, traveler. It is the lantern that will guide you through all subsequent chapters, into shadow and light, solitude and union, death and rebirth, until at last you circle back to the self, richer for every vision you dared to see. The unconscious as a fountain of insight inspired by Carl Jung's tone, an inner journey through depth psychology. Close your eyes again, deep thinker, and descend. Beneath the polished floor of consciousness, beyond the tidy thoughts and rehearsed replies, there lies a cavern, a hidden chamber alive with image, instinct, and ancestral memory. This is the unconscious, your wellspring, and if you dare to descend, you will find not madness, but meaning. You must not confuse the unconscious with chaos. It is not a void, it is a fount, and ceaseless, sacred, and full of symbol. It speaks in dreams, in déjà vu, in that strange attraction you cannot explain, in that sudden fear that echoes from a place you've never been. It is your inner library, older than your name, and within it lie two great streams. First, the personal unconscious, those forgotten memories, repressed fears, unspoken desires, the parts of you pushed beneath the surface by pain or shame or silence. This is where your shadow waits, not as an enemy, but as a twin longing to be seen. And deeper still, the collective unconscious, the layer of psyche, not yours alone, but shared by all humanity. It is here the archetypes dwell, not as characters in a story, but as patterns of soul, as ancient blueprints of what it means to be human. The anima, your inner feminine, the face of your feeling and soul, the wise old man, the sage who appears in dreams with eyes like knowing stars, and the shadow, the bearer of all you refuse to claim. They are not fantasies, they are facts of the inner world, as real and structured as any law of physics, only their gravity pulls not on bodies, but on meanings. When I undertook my journey into the Red Book, I did not know what I would find. I did not descend as a scientist, but as a man whose thoughts had reached their limit. And so I turned inward, letting the images rise unbidden. I followed the serpent, spoke with the dead, met my soul in the form of a feminine guide named Salome, and recorded every vision, terrifying, sacred, and strange. Why, because in these images I found truths that no logic could teach, truths that emerged not from thinking, but from listening. This, I offer you now, a method not to conquer the unconscious, but to befriend it, to stand beside the fountain and drink not all at once, but slowly, reverently. Let your dreams be your guide, do not dismiss them. Write them down, sketch them, speak to their characters, ask them why they've come. They are emissaries from your soul's depths, each carrying a message you were too busy or too afraid to hear. Pay attention to your fantasies, your triggers, your strange moods. The unconscious speaks not only in sleep, but through sudden images, emotional echoes, irrational longings, and when you encounter resistance, a fear, a shame, a tightness in the chest, know that the shadow is near, and with it the chance to become more whole. You are not meant to live upon the surface. Your mind is not a machine, but a mirror to the great inner sea. The unconscious does not oppose your awakening, it demands it. It urges you to see, to feel, to become. So turn to the fountain, draw from it not just memory but mystery. Let its symbols irrigate your thought, and what was once confusion will bloom into wisdom. You are not lost, you are only unfinished. And the water you need is already within you. Drink, and remember the path of individuation. Imagine a narrow trail winding down a mountainside at dusk, one rim bathed in gold, the other swallowed in shadow. To walk it is to feel both the warmth of day and the chill of night on the same skin, and to realize that neither alone is the full truth of the mountain. This is the path of individuation, the pilgrimage I described in man and his symbols, a lifelong weaving together of what you know and what you have yet to meet within yourself. Individuation is not self-improvement. It is self-revelation. You do not add ornaments to the ego. You strip away falseness until the hidden architecture of the self stands clear. Think of clay split open on a potter's wheel. The outer form spins only to reveal the hollow center that will one day hold water. So, too, must you revolve between opposites, light and shadow, masculine and feminine, reason and dream, until the vessel of your being can finally contain the living waters of wholeness. Begin where you stand, in the bright province of consciousness. Here live your accepted traits, your practiced skills, the tidy narrative you tell the world. Honor this daylight realm. It is the ground from which you journey. Yet know that for every illumined contour, an equal darkness lies beyond the lantern's reach. This is the shadow, the orphan twin of your persona, carrying fears you deny, desires you repress, talents you neglect. It waits at the edge of vision like a neglected sibling, pounding on the locked door of your waking mind. Do not flee, open the door, receive the shadow as traveler, mentor, mirror, Ask the anger what boundary it guards, the envy what unlived life it envies, the sadness what buried love it still remembers. To converse with the shadow is to recover power buried beneath shame. To integrate it is to reclaim the vitality once bound in repression. Yet the path bends deeper still to the anima or animus, those contrasexual figures who personify your soul's unlived half. They appear in dreams as lover, guide, or critic, urging you to balance thought with feeling, action with receptivity, dialogue with them. Let the masculine principle learn tenderness, let the feminine learn resolve. In doing so you free your psyche from one-sidedness and invite a richer, more nuanced strength. Now comes the alchemy, the sacred marriage of opposites. Picture the ancient symbol of conjunctio, sun and moon in mutual eclipse, gold intermingling with silver. Within the furnace of awareness, your dualities heat and mingle until a third substance forms, not compromise, but transformation. The serpent swallowing its tail becomes the Ouroboros, a circle without beginning or end, a symbol of the self-realized. Individuation is painstaking, yes, yet profoundly gentle. You do not conquer the unconscious by force, you court it with listening. Active imagination, dream work, creative ritual, each is a bridge spanning daylight mind and nocturnal soul. Cross often, bring back images, instincts, intuitions, offer them a place at the council table of decision. Over time, the once hostile factions of psyche learn to speak a common tongue, and you become what you were meant to be, a sovereign presence, neither inflated nor diminished, but quietly radiant from the center outward. Remember, the goal is not perfection but completion, the roundness of a circle rather than the flawlessness of a statue. The mind that unites its splintered parts becomes a living mandala, gentle in compassion, profound in depth. And as you walk, you carry a lantern for others, illuminating the same trail of integration on which every soul, knowingly or not, must one day set foot. The peril of the inner flood beware, deep thinker, the danger of going too deep too fast. For just as a river sustains life when it flows within its banks, so too must your inner life remain contained, or else the flood of the unconscious may consume what it came to nourish. The unconscious does not always arrive gently. At times it breaks through like a storm, swollen tide, rising with such force that the fragile architecture of ego, the I, that holds your name begins to crack under pressure. In the undiscovered self, I warned that when the ego falters, when it cannot withstand the magnitude of psychic content, what follows is not enlightenment, but dissociation. A split occurs, and the soul, overwhelmed, drifts without anchor. You who see symbols in every glance, who feel what others repress, who sense the myth behind the moment you are most at risk, not because you are weak, but because your gateway to the unconscious is open, unguarded, too receptive. This is the peril of the inner flood. When you become so immersed in the inner images, the dreams, the visions, the emotions that pulse with archetypal force, that you lose your foothold in the outer world. You may begin to speak in riddles no one understands. You may feel yourself slipping between reality and reverie, unsure where the dream ends and waking life begins. This is not madness, but it is a call for grounding. Even the most luminous insights must be rooted in the soil of lived experience. You must build bridges between inner and outer, not tear down the shorelines that keep you whole. So how do you prevent the flood without damming the spring? First, strengthen the ego not as tyrant but as steward. A sturdy ego does not reject the unconscious, it learns to hold it, like a chalice that can contain the wine without shattering. Practice the disciplines that root you in time and place. Keep routines, tend to the body, walk, breathe, nourish yourself. Speak with those who keep your feet on the ground even when your thoughts soar to the stars. Balance inner exploration with outer participation. Let your dreams guide you, but do not forsake your duties in the daylight world. Chop wood, carry water, answer your emails, then engage in creative ritual, write, paint, move. Art is the sacred container through which the unconscious can pour itself without overwhelming the mind. It allows the chaos to become form, the symbol to become story, the storm to become song, and above all, develop what I call the transcendent function, the capacity to hold opposing forces within the psyche until a third emerges. You are not only the swimmer in the current, but also the witness on the bank, and eventually the builder of the bridge. You do not escape the unconscious, nor are you meant to drown in it. You are meant to dance with it, to let its waters cleanse you, but not carry you away. Honor the depths, but return with the pearls. Feel the emotion, but remember your name. Speak with the gods and archetypes, but keep one hand on the doorknob of ordinary life, for only then, only in this sacred balance, can your depth become a gift, not a weight. The flood, when met with structure, becomes not destruction, but renewal, and you, dear thinker, become not lost in the depths, but shaped by them. The creative forge of thought, your mind, deep thinker, is not merely a vessel for ideas, it is a forge, a sacred hearth where the raw materials of the unconscious are transmuted into meaning, form, and flame. In this forge, thought is not idle reflection, it is fire. It burns through illusion, it softens the fixed, it reshapes what was once rigid into something alive. This is not thought for thought's sake, but thought as alchemy, a union of intellect and imagination. In my own life, I turned to mandalas, those circular forms that rose unbidden from my dreams, and I drew them again and again, not to make art in the modern sense, but to give form to the movements of my inner world. They were the architecture of my soul's symbols of order arising from psychic chaos. You, too, are called to this sacred work, to draw out the symbols from the deep sea of your unconscious and forge them into shape through word, image, movement, or sound. This is how your thought becomes legacy. This is how the invisible becomes visible. When the psyche offers you a symbol, it is not decoration. It is a key, a clue, a fragment of the mystery made manifest. It arrives as a whisper in a dream, a phrase that echoes in your journal, a color that won't leave your mind's eye. Do not dismiss it. Hold it over the fire of your attention. Ask it what it wants to become. Some symbols will ask to be painted, others written. Some will become questions that guide your life. Others may become philosophies that echo through generations. This is how the unconscious speaks, not in explanations, but in expressions. And when you express these inner contents, you do not merely create, you liberate. You make space in your psyche. You allow what was once trapped in dream or shadow to live in the world. This is not a personal act alone. It is collective, just as I offered my thoughts through the Red Book, my theories through psychological types, and my images through drawings and reflections, so too do you offer your inner forge as a gift to others, to show them that what they sense but cannot say can be said. Your depth, when expressed, becomes a mirror in which others can find themselves. It is not self-indulgence, it is soul contribution. It is how the eternal speaks through the individual. But I warn you, the forge must be tended with care. Too much fire, and you may burn out. Too little, and the metal will not shape. The creative life must be balanced by ritual, by solitude and silence, by time away from the noise of the world. Let your creativity rise from the unconscious, but let your ego serve as artisan, steadying the hand, selecting the form, shaping the edges. Together they co-create, and when your thought is born, offer it back. To the page, to the canvas, to a friend, to the world. This is how the inner becomes eternal. This is how psyche becomes symbol, and this is how you forge a life that is not only lived, but remembered. The shadow's challenge, no deep thinker escapes the shadow. It waits behind your finest thoughts, lurks beneath your convictions, and watches silently from the edge of your light. It is not evil, this shadow, but it is dangerous in one way. It contains everything you have yet to admit about yourself: doubt, fear, envy, rage, desire. All that is disowned gathers there, gaining strength in the dark. And it is from this place that your shadow speaks not in words, but in your projections, your judgments, your sudden emotional storms. Do not run from it, do not call it not me. The shadow is yours, and it will follow you until you turn and face it. I have seen what happens when it is denied. It turns outward, and you begin to battle the world for what you cannot bear to battle in yourself. But when it is met, truly met with honesty, courage, and care, then the shadow becomes a teacher, not a threat. Ask yourself, what have I repressed in the name of being good? What part of me is angry because it was never allowed to speak? What have I envied that reveals what I most long to become? These are the doors to deeper power. They are difficult, yes, but they open to rooms within you that contain treasure buried under shame. You must not seek to kill the shadow. Only tyrants and fools imagine such victories. You must integrate it. Fold it back into your being, not to be ruled by it, but to become whole. Every confrontation with the shadow is a rite of passage. Every emotion you trace back to its root is an act of sovereignty. You cannot know your true power until you face what frightens you within. And once you do, your thoughts will no longer be timid echoes of other minds. They will thunder with authenticity, for you will have claimed your entire self. This is the challenge of the shadow, and it is also your liberation. The sanctuary of solitude is not absence. It is presence, the kind the world is too loud to hear. At Bollingen I built not merely a house, but a space where time slowed, where the soul could speak. Stone by stone I shaped a retreat where I could meet myself again, free from voices that were not mine. You, too, must find your sanctuary of solitude, not as escape, but as return. Return to the stillness where thoughts can steep, where dreams can unfold, where the inner dialogue matures into wisdom. Without solitude, your thoughts remain untested. They echo the world, not your own depths. But in solitude you learn the texture of your own psyche, the rhythm of your intuition, the voice beneath the noise. In stillness you discover which desires are yours, and which were planted in you by fear or expectation. Solitude is sacred not because it is silent, but because it is honest. It shows you your longings, it reveals your restlessness, and then if you stay it brings you peace, not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of alignment. Carve out time, turn inward, let the outer world pause long enough for the inner one to rise. Bring your journal, your questions, your dreams, bring your ache and your hope. Let solitude be the garden in which your thought, no longer hurried, blooms into truth. Only there in the sanctuary where no one is watching, where no masks are needed, does your deep thinking take root and grow into the oak of insight that can shelter others. Solitude is not the exile of the mind, it is its homecoming. The dialogue with the archetypes speak to you, deep thinker, not as doctrines, but as living presences. They rise from the collective unconscious, not to command, but to guide if you are still enough to listen. I have walked this path. In solitude, in silence, in suffering, I met them, the wise old man with his timeless gaze, the anima, dancing at the threshold of my soul, the shadow, dark and necessary, and the divine child, bearer of new beginning. These figures are not fantasy, they are the language of the soul, patterns that shape dreams, stories, myths. They are the architecture behind the psyche, universals that wear different masks in every age, but whose essence never changes. To engage them is to dialogue with the unconscious itself. Through active imagination I learned this art. I would take an image from a dream, a figure, a symbol, and invite it to speak, not as a puppet, but as an autonomous voice from the depths of psyche. You, too, may sit with your symbols, ask them questions, let them answer not with logic, but with intuitive truth. Let the shadow speak its rage, let the wise old man offer his warning, let the anima sing of forgotten tenderness. Write their words, draw their faces. This is not delusion, it is dialogue with the deep, and as you continue, these inner companions will walk beside you not as authorities, but as mirrors of what is emerging within. You become not a passive thinker, but a co-creator of meaning, a weaver of inner truths into the visible cloth of thought. To meet the archetypes is to know that your psyche is not empty, it is inhabited, rich with wisdom, warning, and wonder. Listen and speak back. The ripple into the collective your thoughts, though born in silence, do not end there. They ripple outward into family, into community, into the collective unconscious of your time. Like a stone cast into still water, a single insight can disturb the inertia of a whole era. In 1951, I observed how certain minds, those attuned to the symbols of their age, become cultural mediators, voices through which humanity speaks to itself. You, too, may be such a voice. If you dare to share what you see, your insight can become symbol, and your symbol can become bridge from the individual to the archetypal, from the personal to the eternal. Do not underestimate this. The thoughts you have, the dreams you record, the images that visit you, they are not yours alone. They are fragments of the greater soul, seeking expression through you. When you name what others feel but cannot articulate, you liberate not just yourself but them. This is your quiet power, to reflect the soul of the time while standing firmly rooted in your own. A true thinker does not impose meaning, they reveal it. They do not shout, they echo the truth already rumbling beneath the surface of the collective. This is your role if you accept it, to walk between the inner and outer world, gathering symbols, distilling wisdom and offering it back, not as dogma, but as invitation, a ripple, a gesture, a light in the dark. Your thoughts, when forged in depth, become medicine for the age, so speak not for validation, but for transformation. The world is hungry for meaning, offer it if you dare.